Hello and welcome to Star Trek Infinite. I'm Shadow Coast and welcome to the channel. We are going to kick off a video to outline key things you consider when you start a new campaign in Star Trek Infinite. The goal of this video is to help beginners or those unfamiliar with Stellaris or this genre of game on how to get started so it's not quite as frustrating because there's a lot of complexity to this game. Now this will be a basic overview, so there are many more complex mechanics, so feel free to post in the comments if I missed something obvious, because the goal is to help people who are having a challenge getting started to help overcome that so they can actually enjoy the game. Now when you first start, you're going to click New Game or Hotkey N, and you can select from 4 factions. Now if you are learning, I highly recommend clicking Play Tutorial, which will kick off a United Federation of Planets game. It'll also adjust some of the settings, I believe, to make it a little bit easier and provide some general hints along the way to get you started. For the purposes of this video, we're going to pick a different faction just to create a little variety in the explanation here. So we're going to go with Klingon Empire. Once you've selected your faction, before you click select, make sure you click settings. In settings, you can do a few things such as impact the tech cost, set the number of habitable worlds, all these things. So you can take a look and read through them. The biggest thing that you're going to want to do, especially if you're learning the game, is turn down the difficulty level. This will make it a lot easier not only to learn the game, but you're not going to have to contend with quite as many challenging aspects, such as economy management, scientific development, as well as when it comes to diplomacy and fighting enemies. So I highly recommend throwing it on Cadet. There's no shame in that. I did that. I do it on the tutorial. I think it was Ensign, and I actually turned it down to Cadet, if I'm not mistaken, just to make sure I could refamiliarize myself with the game. The other thing I recommend keeping off, which should be off at default, is Iron Man mode. Now, for those of you seeking achievements, please note that you have to turn this on to gain achievements. So if you're one of those like me that loves achievements, you're going to want to have a playthrough with Iron Man mode on, but we're not going to do that because this is a tutorial and learning video. Now, with settings set, our empire selected, or faction selected, let's kick off a new game. Here you will have some information about your empire and kind of where they stand to begin with. So you can read through that. Now, one of the big things that you're going to have to decide here is AI Assistant. I always turn this on my first few playthroughs because it will help familiarize yourself with the basic information as you click on it. So for example, we've turned it on. If I select a planet, it's going to give me information on Planet Summary tab, which will be helpful just as a reminder here. So I recommend keeping the assistant on. It can get annoying if you know everything, so obviously turn it off. But if you're watching this video, you're probably looking to learn to help further your enjoyment of this really interesting and fun game. I think it's a really great game. I love the Star Trek universe. Alright, our first several minutes in game. A couple of things to note. Now, if you're not familiar with the UI, I did post a few videos on that, so I can link that in the description and put a card there so you can reference that. But in short, one of the first things we want to do is take a minute to review all of our resources up here. So our first course of action here is actually going to be to click on the mission tree. I always recommend you look at the mission tree, and because this is something unique to Star Trek Infinite compared to Stellaris, at least from what I've played, right, where you're going to get to pick your own journey, and they're going to be branching paths that are going to have major impacts on how the game plays out. So this is where you're going to get your replayability. So what I always like to do is take a minute to familiarize myself with things that I want to keep in mind to advance the mission tree, which will advance the game and key things that are happening within the Star Trek universe. So take a look here, and you're going to want to note things you're going to have to do. So here we're going to need to have 2 admirals. We're going to have 1 general assigned to a transport ship, and we're going to want to have a fleet with a power of 1,000. In the next, call it 5 minutes, we're not going to be able to accomplish any of these things. But the point here is just to familiarize yourself with what you need to do so you can keep advancing the storyline. And you want to do that continuously. So always check back with the mission tree. The next thing I'm going to do is just take a minute to look at the galaxy map, right? Where's my faction? Where do we sit? These are all explorable planets out here, which we're going to want to do, right? And kind of where are our key borders here. So you can see here, right now we have a border to the Federation and a border to the Romulan Empire. We're kind of insulated from the Cardassian Union, so it's going to be a little bit harder for them to attack us, which is good. So we're just going to familiarize ourselves with kind of geographically where we sit. And the next thing we're going to do here is start thinking about what we're going to need to produce. Right, so right now we have surplus across the board, but with that in mind, I'm going to click here in the exploitation mode right here. So if I click here, you're going to see that things are going to pop up, and I'm going to see different things I can build. So right now, alloys are going to be used to build ships. And as a Klingon Empire, we tend to be militaristic, so I'm going to prioritize making sure I augment my ability to build alloys and build more ships. So I'm going to left click on my construction ship here, and I'm going to click build mining station over here. So we're going to send them over there to start augmenting our alloys. Now we're going to want to build up everywhere. We're going to want credits, deuterium. We're going to want minerals. We're going to want food, which is a little bit different. We're going to build that later. So the kind of first action that I'm taking now, that I familiarize myself with the geopolitical map, or at least the geographical map, excuse me, in our mission, is to start building mines to farm minerals. The next thing we're going to want to do, and don't forget to do this, is actually technology. We have to select technology. This will be critical not only to the expansion of our empire and in better ships, but it's also critical to being able to expand and build new buildings that'll increase our administrative power, our fleet, ability to build larger fleets, recruit more admirals, things like that. So there are 3 trees: physics, society, and engineering. And within each tree, there are going to be lots to research. So we can see what we have kind of research, right, as starting text. And we're going to click this, and we can choose from one of 3 things, right? So these will be kind of semi-randomly generated. So keep that in mind. So for physics, we're going to go with sensor range +2, ship detection range +4. We're going to go with long range sensors. Being a militaristic empire, while weapons are good, information is king. For society, so here, as you're picking them, it's really up to you. They're going to be different things that have different impacts, so you can see here. So we are going to go with what is imperial manners? Housing amenities. Let's do that. Keep the people happy. Engineering. Foundries are going to create more alloys, so we're going to go with that. So make sure you pick your research. Don't forget to do that. Alright, so we have construction underway, research going. Now it's time to use our science ship. There are a few things we can do here, but most importantly, we're going to want to start going to systems and surveying them. So the way we do that is left-click survey, and then left-click a system that's unknown, and it will go off and do that. Now remember, we're paused right now, so we can kind of set the speed up here, so keep that in mind. Finally, we do have a governorship, so let's put that to use. And if we're going to take a look at our planet management here, we can take a look at everything going on. So you see the output here, you can see what's being output. So like I said, we're going to prioritize kind of minerals. So Kronos is our home planet as a Klingons, and it's producing 5 alloys. We're actually going to left click on our governorship, right click on Kronos, I think is how you pronounce it, and take a look at the different options. We want to improve worker production, increase worker production, plus 3%, plus 3% per governor. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And let's take a look. We're going to click spacebar to unpause because we've covered everything we need to do in the first few minutes of getting started here. Alright, so now the game will start. Ashes at Khitomer, you can read through this. You can start setting your stance based off how you want to kind of play through. I'm randomly selecting something from that perspective. Alright, so I'm going to pause here. Let's take a quick recap. Right, reviewed mission trees, took a look at the map. We've sent our science ship to survey, our construction ship to build. We've made sure we started research. We have a governor, so we sent that to augment our production. So if we look at planet management, we're going to eventually see some bonuses here increasing based off of the governor's impact here, which is important, right, from that perspective. The next two things we're going to want to do here is start thinking about looking at our resources and expanding planet features. Now, if you're beginning, what I recommend is for all non-capital planets, you can augment kind of the development. And the way you do that is you left click on the planet, and over here you can designate what it is. So here, if we take a look at our planets, some of them have better things in different areas. So Narenda 3, or Agat here has 7 energy and then 3 and 6 for mining and agriculture respectively. We're actually going to change this to an energy world, and we're going to left click automation on, so it will automatically develop it for us. We don't have to worry about it. Here, energy is pretty good. We're going to want energy, so we're going to turn this into an energy world. And here, because it's kind of flat, we're going to want to turn this into a mining world, from that perspective. And now these are going to automatically develop here. We have to manually upgrade our capital planet, so keep that in mind. So one of the things that you're going to note here is you can construct different things by clicking plus if you have the minerals. So city, district, produce trade value and amenities, right? You can hover over each one. So as I mentioned, because we want to build ships, we're going to prioritize alloys. So I'm going to do a little expansion into alloys here, which are helpful. And then we can construct buildings. These tend to be expensive but have massive bonuses. So you really want to be thoughtful on what you're building, although you can swap out. But given the costs and time, you just want to take a thoughtful approach. So, that's the next thing we're going to do is start looking at planets, automatically automating their expansion or upgrade abilities from that perspective. Now, finally, the last thing we're going to want to do here is take a look at our leaders. Now, we can hire in admirals, governors, generals, and spies. Spies will avail themselves as you progress the campaign. It takes a little bit, but once we have a spy, we're going to want to start sending them over to gain information on other factions from that perspective. And there's one final thing that I forgot that I meant to mention earlier, and that is contacts. If you go to contacts, you're going to want to start diplomacy with different factions. So here, United Federation of Planets, if we click diplomacy, we can, offer a trade deal, form a non-aggression pact, do different things to decide if we want to ally or eventually fight enemies. So this video was about 15 minutes long. That's your first kind of 10 minutes getting the game started. Remember, keep constructing mines and research stations. Keep surveying with your science ship. Make sure you're using governors and other civilian ships, right, from that perspective, and that should hopefully get you started. If you did go on to find this video helpful, please drop a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in future videos. Shadow Coast out.